All right. I've gotten so many questions, like just living my normal life, like going to restaurants and riding in cabs and going visiting places and meeting people. And I've gotten enough of this same question that I figured maybe I need to share the answer more broadly because it keeps coming to me in really unexpected ways. So, as you can see, I'm going to talk about the Joe Dispenza retreat that I went on. So I went on the week-long advanced retreat, and just the TLDR is that it changed my life completely. I was ready to change. I made a commitment to change, and I put in a lot of hard fucking work to change. But that retreat and the things that it entailed, along with me making the space in my life to commit to that process, really changed everything, changed the game. So I went February of 20, what year are we? 2022? Yeah. And had like dabbled a little bit in Dr. Joe's work, but actually hadn't read a whole book. I did you're supposed to do the intensive, I think it's called, or progressive and intensive, the online courses, or in person, but you can do them online before you go to a week long. And I did that. But before that, I just kind of been studying a little bit about quantum physics and intentionality. I had read The Field by Lynn McTaggart. Yeah. And her follow-up book to this, which my mom has right now, The Intention Experiments, and it's all about different quantum kind of experiments that people did to study the science of intentionality and all that. So from that, I just kind of went down, obviously, YouTube rabbit holes, podcast rabbit holes, all of that, and kept running into Dr. Joe. I'm like, oh, that's a cool talk he gave, or that's a cool article that I read, but I never really dived into his work specifically. I was just kind of picking up anything from the ether that felt right at the time. So I was in a place of just really knowing it's time to make a choice, get in or get out, basically. And I got an email, I guess I'd signed up for a newsletter or something for Dr. Joe, and I got an email saying, oh, these retreats are a thing. And I had no idea he did retreats. I was not one of those people who I met at the retreat who were very well studied and knew all the nuances of his work and the research that his team does. And I knew nothing about any of that. I just knew that I really liked his approach to things. So I signed up for the retreat after a lot of hemming and hawing and crying about it. And I don't know why I'm making such a big deal. It's a lot of money. It was a big deal, but I was making a big deal of it kind of internally for emotional kind of metaphysical reasons, and finally just signed up and was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. It feels like the right thing to do. And at that point I just started to realize I had this intuition thing and can listen to it. And so I said, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sign up. I'm gonna see what happens. And I did. And I went through, I guess I signed up whenever it opens, a month or two before the actual thing. And I had time to do that progressive intensive work online, which just blew my whole head up. I would recommend doing even that if you can't, go on a retreat. The time, the money, the commitment, those online intensives, you do pay for them. But really just opened up my mind as a person who was just at a high level looking at this work, being oh, cool, that's a cool thing. It's meditation and stuff. But just sitting in this room and doing those online meditations that are recorded ahead of time, it's not live, and thinking in my head oh, I hate this Zoom stuff. I hate being online, which is funny. And yeah, just having these insane, to me at the time, experiences in this room, just meditating for 60 minutes, 45 minutes. I think some of them went up to 90 minutes, but it was a very gradual kind of progression, which is super intentional. When you reach the retreat, they want to kind of get you in the mode of doing this stuff gently. But yeah, just everything fit for me. I was a person at that time, sort of now, but definitely was at that point, super analytical, really need the evidence. You can't give me a fact without something really strong to back it. I do want to read the science. That's why like this book was hella dense for me. But as someone who didn't study quantum physics like in school, or like who does that? But some people do. That's great. I didn't have the like brain for that, but something dense like this was what I needed. So when I went through the courses, the progressive intensive, there was a lot of that science backing and just like how do things connect together, which my brain really needed at that point in my life. And it made me feel like, okay, I have the assurance and the buy-in that I need to go forth and like sit here for 90 minutes and do this damn meditation, something I thought I also couldn't do. And just had these insane experiences in this room. I don't know how to categorize them, but just reaching like different levels of consciousness than I ever had. And I knew just based on that, like, all right, I signed up to go. I've got to commit. Like I'm going to do this. And so went to a retreat in Mexico, which was of course amazing, the 7 days. And it just, there's just hard to put words to it, because I think when you're ready for something and you're willing to accept sort of the difficulties you might have with something, with a process or a new concept, like you're willing to struggle through that and see what is there for you, like what is the fruit on the other side of it. I was really in that mindset, even though I was deeply skeptical, deeply depressed, deeply just like, I don't know, mistrusting of everything. It's just kind of how I was raised. It's personality. It's a lot of different things that have kept me alive. So really good things, but stuff that I was ready to start like noticing those thoughts happening, and I was ready to question them and be like, okay, can we suspend some disbelief for a moment? Can we just like go along with this and not be super judgmental or angry, which is one of my many struggles with everything, but with this work. And I was able to do that with the retreat. And it's funny, I watched a lot of these videos before I went because I was so analytical and I need to know what's going to happen. And I don't know, like you don't need to, but I feel for the people who are doing it, which is why I guess I'm doing this and why I answered so many questions for people after I went, just random people I met in the world. And yeah, I think the logistics of it, if you've never been to like, I don't know what to call these, like massive spiritual gatherings, like walking into it, Mexico might be bigger than the US ones. I couldn't tell. I had a friend who just got back from Nashville, which seemed like it was a much smaller event, but Mexico is huge. I don't remember how many bajillions of people were there, but it was a lot. Walking into it, just the production value, and like from minute one, I was like, this feels like a mega church, like what you'd see on TV. And so my personality started to like shut it down and be like, bitch, you wasted this money, and just really judging myself and everything around me. And that night I kind of sat down, and you do meditation, you do a little bit of everything the first evening, but I was just overwhelmed and trying to figure out, like, is this for me? Did I do a wrong thing? And I did not do a wrong thing. And I think it's interesting, like the production value and the volume of humans in one room, and just all the food that's available and all the things, it just feels so like not me, which is a weird thing to think. Shows how identified I was with being a certain person, having a certain personality, certain experiences. But I was able to drop the all like not me-ness and really just fucking go there, like meditate, show up to do what I wanted to do. For me, so much of my work was personality stuff around me, my own stuff, but then how I react to people around me has always been a big theme in my life. Like I said, the judgmental stuff, angry stuff, like this is not for me, I'm not one of you, kind of, that's sort of the vibe I had going on. And every day, you're part of the thing is that you listen to these lectures, you do the meditations, and you talk about it. And I was like, I'm a person who likes to have my own experience. I don't really want to like deal with you people. And of course it's like thousands of people. There's so many personalities, and there's a lot of weird shit going on, and with the people themselves, and just different takes on the work. And it's, I don't know, everyone didn't align with how I came in and what I liked about this work and how I was experiencing it, obviously. But I was able to like use that as fuel for like kind of grist for the mill is what we used to say in like the therapy world. Just stuff to work on with my meditations. It was just right there in my face, available. Like, this is a key struggle of mine that makes me unhappy in this world, and it was there every day feeding me things to work on. And so that was amazing, just for my personality type at that time, being in that kind of environment and like trying to do my peaceful thing that I usually just do in this room by myself and don't talk about. It's just for me. Yeah, it was critical, super critical to have that experience for me personally. The meditations themselves, I came in with a lot of limited thinking, as probably everybody does, because his whole deal is being unlimited, right? Like Dr. Joe talks about living in a state of abundance and not lack. And just as humans, I think, especially people in U.S. culture, I don't know, various cultures that we come from here, like, focus a lot on what we don't have and not what we do. And, you know, the things we want are things that we don't have and like can't obtain, not things that we are capable of in our mind. So that shift to everything is abundance and I am the creator of all of this was like so foreign to me and so beautiful. And the meditations really just helped me get there. But my point was, another kind of limited belief I had coming in was I can't sit still for this long. And I'd watch the videos. I know there's a lot of long moments in the retreat and early mornings and the things. And like, I was so fixated on those details. And it's so funny because a lot of people also were coming in. A lot of first timers were kind of anxious, like, oh, we heard about the thing. And I don't even want to talk about the things because like, you just need to go experience it. But the cool thing was that being a big thing of mine, that I can't sit still and I can't be around all this many people and like that's not my process, it's not how I do what I do, got challenged and like smacked in the face. And like just it proved that none of that's true. I made it true because I believed it, because maybe it served me at one point and then it stopped, but I just kept believing it, that I'm limited in these ways and I can't possibly. And I learned in those moments, those extremely long days, when time just like flew, and conversations with people, like whether they were good or bad, I didn't have an attachment. Like I wasn't wounded by something someone said, or if they didn't agree with me or feel like I felt, and then I didn't fall in love with somebody because soulmate, you feel like it was all very like healthy, which is weird because I didn't have that experience much prior to this. And yeah, every day the meditations are amazing, and just his lectures and the presence of all these people in the room who really want to raise the energy, really want to heal, to support, to like be present regardless of our various personality issues and our earthly things that come along with this density. It was just such a gift to have that environment, which is the opposite of what I thought it would be. So yeah, just like beautiful, amazing, unreal stuff. And I've just seen, it's been over a year now. It's May, year and some months, and the ripple effects have been just outrageous in my life. I meditate pretty much every day now, for 60 to 90 minutes usually every day when I can. This last year has been incredibly difficult, and I know that's why sort of my higher self architected this way, that I would go in February and my dad would get really sick in March and he would pass away in June. And first like close love that passed from my world. So going through that experience for the first time, I know if that had happened prior to this experience, I would not have handled it the way that I did. So I just saw, and people reflected back to me, close people reflected back to me, that I was handling stressful and just out of control experiences that we all go through at some point in a very graceful way. I felt very present and calm, considering, obviously not always calm. I was able to go into like deeply reflective places, which would not have been the case and wasn't the case prior. It's just been It's been unreal, and it's ebbs and flows. When I first came back, I was on this extreme high, and having never gone to like a major spiritual thing like this, I didn't know what that would happen. And when I was in it, I thought it would be permanent. And I was so scared I wouldn't feel like spiritually high anymore. And like it was the whole thing. And I've read so much about that now and kind of understand what that is. And yeah, just to me, that was a process of building, kind of protecting my bubble. And I guarded a lot of like who I let into my life. I let a lot of people out of my life, which I still stand behind. And just like the content, music, TV, the things I read, I was just very, not finicky, but particular about what those things were. I wanted them to be of a higher vibration, but an extremely high vibration. And going through almost immediately after that, the things with my father and my family, I realized it's not all going to be magical quantum unicorns and rainbows. And we're here in the density for reasons. And like, oh my gosh, it was just magical to see kind of coming down from that place wasn't a bad thing, that I kind of reintegrated it into the 3D, because this is where we live, right? But we can create in the 5D. And yeah, it's just been a beautiful gift to see kind of how those stressful moments and like real life things come up and how you can deal with them differently. And it's going to depend on the person, but I mean, if you're at this point watching this, you know what Dr. Joe's work is about, and that it's all about being the creator of your reality, because that's what we do, that we're all divine. I mean, gosh, it's just reaching that level of consciousness, the way that he sets up meditations. It's very scientific, it's very well studied, and it gets you into that higher frequency level reliably. If you're committed to trying and you get into this routine, you can go there reliably. And that is the place in which you can learn to create, learn to like undo your trauma or to integrate or dissolve, however you want to see it. You really have full control over all those things. And I think his methodology worked perfectly for me. Super analytical, questioning a lot of things, trying to figure out spirituality, going through dark nights of the soul, which I had before and after at different times, not right before and after, but just want to point that out, that this didn't like get rid of my existential human crises. Like, you're still a person, but yeah, I just have different tools to deal with that stuff, different outlook. It opened me up to lots of other content by people who think similarly, people who think totally differently. And it's allowed me, being in that place where I can access my higher self, I can see the parodies and the synchronicities happening between different ideologies, and I can more easily bear witness to and sit with people who are maybe speaking differently about something than I would, or have had really different experiences. Get into that maybe another time, but like that's been a major gift as well, just to be present for everything that is, and to know that it's all divine, it's all love. The work really just amplified things that I kind of had a knowing of, and just fully brought them out. So I'm able to now articulate things like this. I didn't know how to say these words before. I mean, barely do now, but like at least I can get it out a little bit. But yeah, a beautiful, amazing thing. I don't know. I feel like just go on your journey. If you're considering, do I do this? Do I not? Try to find that space in you that knows if something is a yes or a no. And this is an activity that I learned recently in a workshop that I can maybe link below. It was really great, about finding your intuition, sort of, and recognizing the things in life that are a definite yes, and recognizing the things that are a definite no. And we all have like those things that we can very quickly be like, oh, that's a hell no, and that's a fuck yes. Like very clear, very simple. But it's harder to know when it's sort of like a shade of a yes or a no, or we're not sure, we're doubting ourselves. So I think honing that ability to find the place of like, what is yes, what is no, will tell you whether or not you should do this. It's not the YouTube videos about how long the meditations were, or like what psychedelic experiences people had in their own brain, which you do, which is very cool. Or I did. I won't say everybody will, but yeah. it's not really about that stuff. It's about like living in alignment with what you know to be true. So finding that intuition, listening to the little voice inside you and the higher voice inside you, and seeing, is something like this a yes? Is it a no? Is something else a yes? Is something completely different a yes? It might have nothing to do with Dr. Joe. It might not be this like fancy high production value thing. It might be something totally different. So that's really the only like advicey thing I would say, because I watched a lot of videos that were very very informative, but ultimately not helpful, because it was really about me sitting with myself and being like, is it time for you to make a jump or not? And is this the direction you want to jump in? Like, are these the tools that feel like a yes to you? And like the more books I read from different people about quantum energy and energy healing, the more people I listened to, the more different meditations I did, the more I was like, this is here. And then the universe dropped that registration email in my lap on a day when it needed to be. And there's a thing in me that knew. So I hope that's what folks can do to make these decisions. And yeah, the logistics don't super matter. Like, if you have the time, like if you really have the time, if you have the money, like if you really have the money, yeah. And just questioning the limited beliefs that say, I don't have the time or money or the resources, like whatever that might be for you, when you might, it might be a priority thing. It might be being in an uncomfortable space of like prioritizing you and your things for the greater good, for the greater of all things. So yeah, it's just a lot of internal work to do. It's not so much who, what, when, where, how, why. I mean, I could answer that stuff if there's something specific folks want to know, and I'm sure you can find it out here on the YouTubes anywhere. But yeah, I would just encourage people to take in through your senses the information that's coming to you, whether you're reading, whether you're listening, whether you're just in nature observing. Things just kind of click if you're paying attention to them. So don't get caught up in the details, and be gentle. If it's like not the time to do something like this, that is a big resource commitment in this moment, there's probably 100 other things that will come to you that aren't retreats necessarily, or I don't know, like nothing major. It could be a lot of small things. So that's just my thought in this moment. And I did do lots of small things and big things and all the things, that weren't retreats. So that's it. I just wanted to pull a card. A lot of times when I was answering these kind of questions for people or trying to like formulate my own thoughts about it, I would pull a card. And my favorite deck to do that from is Animal Spirit, Kim Krantz. It's just beautiful. I'm really drawn to the images and all the things. So this is what I pulled. And I've never seen this guy before, the oyster. So I'm going to look up real quick. Oh, turned right to it. So yeah, I would pull these, things when I would chat with people about kind of my spiritual experiences and what's going on with my growth and evolution and what's going on with theirs, and just like processing back and forth just to get a little guidance from higher self. So the oyster says, patient, secret keeper, hiding inner treasures. The focus and determination of the oyster is unmatched. Anything an oyster personality puts their mind to, they achieve with grace and charm. The only problem is, oyster types often take their inner gifts for granted. They become shy or doubtful, and this can lead to withdrawing or protecting their deepest desires and life's work. When the oyster card appears, it's important to reveal your inner treasures. What is it you've been hesitant to share? The world is waiting to see. So when this energy is in balance, you might feel blessed, generous, masterful. When it's out of balance, reluctant, gripping, clams up. And to bring it into balance, you should share something. So definitely this was here for me. This is my first time like sharing something like this super broadly, however broadly it would like to be shared. But maybe it resonates with you as well. You know, listening to this, you're brought here for a reason. The energies are connecting for a reason, and yeah, don't hide your inner treasure, apparently.